Hello, everyone, and welcome to another round of transfer talks where we discuss the hottest rumors, confirmations of the transfer season ahead of the 2023 season. As always, I'm joined by Mr. Gregor himself, Ewan Wilson. And yeah, Ewan, there's been a few transfers since we last spoke about transfer in this depth. But I think the biggest headline, we might as well start there. Adam Yates, one half of the Yates twins, going to be moving away from Ineos Grenadiers to UAE Team Emirates on a 3-year contract.
Well, this has been a rumor for a while, actually. We saw that there was rumors about him leaving Ineos very early on in the season. We were talking about this during the Tour de France. In fact, Adam Yates' agent was seen at the bike exchange after party at the Tour de France, even trying to negotiate there. However, the bike exchange seemed like the most legitimate team that he was going to go to. Of course, he rode there for a number of years. His brother is there. However, according to our sources at Velo News, he was just a little bit too expensive for BEX. To bring on for the next season. So then that reopened the market. And within probably the last week or so, we had this news emerge initially, broken by Velo News again, that Adam Yates would be signing for UAE. It was announced early this week on a 3-year contract. That's quite a long time, given that Adam Yates was only on a 2-year contract at Ineos after moving at the beginning of 2021. But for this as well, other teams are knocked out of the race. B&B Hotels, which will be known as Paris Cycling Club, were outbid as well by UAE. This is fascinating as UAE build up their team. We've seen this season already. They've signed a couple of big hitters in the climbing game, including Domin Novak, Tim Wellens, and Felix Großschartner. And once again, this will be another addition to that squad for Adam Yates. And I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's another GC guy who's performed well at Grand Tours, performs very well at 1-week-long stage races, to throw into the mix alongside Pogacar, alongside Almeida, and alongside Juan Ayuso for the years to come.
Yeah, it's a bit too many chefs and not enough sous chefs, it seems, in the UAE Team Emirates kitchen. But yeah, Adam Yates, he's actually had quite a good time, a good season this year as well. Top 10 in the Tour de France, winning the Deutschland Tour. If anyone cares about that, well, I think it's a good tour. It should be longer. Fourth at the Vuelta Española last year. And yeah, he's going to be in the same team as his UAE Tour rival for the last 3 years. So are we going to see them just block that podium out completely? But yeah, Ewan, where does he fit in next year? As you said, Tadej Pogacar, Juan Ayuso, Joao Almeida, what do you do with Adam Yates? Is he a luxury domestique? Do you send him to the Giro? That's what we all thought Joao Almeida was there for. So it seems like, why are they even buying him?
Well, Yates has ridden in the shadow of guys over the past year in the Grand Tour setting. Last year's Vuelta, for instance, his only goal. He was a luxury domestique for Egan Bernal for most of the race, let's not forget, until Bernal started to bleed out time over the final couple of stages in the mountains. This year as well, he ended up as this secondary leader for Ineos at the Tour de France behind Geraint Thomas. I think he's settled into the role of being number 2 at the team, and as he gets older and older, he has to accept that. And with Pogacar, Almeida, Ayuso being big leaders who've podium Grand Tours, which Adam Yates hasn't done. His brother has, but he hasn't. I think he's just going to have to suck it up and try to ride for them. I think an important point to bring up here is Adam Yates' ability in 1-week-long stage races. It's very good. If you look towards Pogacar, he's got his own goals. He's going to have a very streamlined season next year. There's a lot of talk about him maybe focusing on classics next year and not focus on stage races or vice versa, where Adam Yates can slot in where they don't have a Pogacar for the 1-week-long stage races. Bear in mind, Almeida as well hasn't taken a 1-week-long stage race this year, neither has Ayuso. So if you throw in Adam Yates to do that, he's a reliable 1-week-long stage racer, and he sweeps up these sort of 1-week-long races and maybe, I don't know, Valenciana or maybe even Catalonia, then he remains happy. He's content in his role at UAE before teeing up Pogacar at the Tour de France alongside George Bennett, Rafa Majka, the rock chap himself, Davide Formolo. So many stars on this team. UAE, I think, have looked in on themselves and know they have to challenge Jumbo in a certain way. And Yates is another guy to bring this team onto a similar pegging to Jumbo Visma.
This kind of signing kind of brings the discussion almost back to the Sky days where they were just bringing on guys that could basically finish in the top 10, top 5, but they were bringing them in as domestiques, and it felt a bit unfair. But yeah, that's a discussion for another time. But sticking with Ineos Grenadiers, well, he's leaving Ineos Grenadiers. They've got some confirmations that we mentioned a few of them, but Tian Arensman confirmation, we had a discussion about that, so check out that discussion. And also 2 Brits. First of all, Connor Swift, all-round nice guy from Yorkshire, from Doncaster, been such a good domestique for Nairo Quintana for Team Arkea Samsic, but obviously he's a formidable racer in his own right. And then also the very young but very tall, he's about double my height, Josh Tarling is also being brought in, the newly crowned junior world time trial champion. Ewan, what do you think of these signings?
I'm surprised Swift left Arkea, given that Arkea, we believe, are making it up to the World Tour next year. That would have expanded his calendar hugely as one of their frontmen. But I mean, of course, he's a British rider. Probably got the call about signing for Ineos. He deserves to be there. And of course, he's not going to stay. He's not going to turn it down. He wants to be there on one of the world's best teams. He's going to be a vital part of this new classics formation that they've been building with the likes of Ben Turner. I was going to say Dylan van Baarle, but he's moving away next year. Magnus Sheffield, maybe even Pete Pogana, Tom Pidcock, even in the years to come, where Swift could be a really important part of that. Similarly, in Grand Tours, he'll just be a reliable engine, as he has been with Arkea for the past couple of years. He's been a staple in that team, supporting Nairo Quintana. But in terms of Tarling, I think it's going to be interesting. He's another one of these kids that's been picked up by Ineos. They keep signing teenagers, and he's another one. And at the moment, a lot of these teenagers that have been swept up by Ineos are doing pretty well. So one would think the Welshman, Josh Tarling, could do the same.
Yeah, thank you, Remco, for getting all these riders to skip the under 23 stage or under 23 ranks. I don't know how you feel about you, and a bit strange, but yeah, we've seen Magnus Sheffield didn't sink. He managed to do very well in his first year.
Yeah, and I mean, even Luke Plapp, even
True.
I mean, looking down the list as well, Ben Turner's done particularly well. I think Josh Tarling will fit into it well. Just hope he doesn't get lost in the melee of all these young kids that are coming up. There's more even coming in for next season too.
So we spoke about them earlier, getting Adam Yates, but UAE Team Emirates look like they're finally offloading their very expensive paperweight in some respect. Fernando Gaviria and Ewan, obviously Fernando Gaviria, when he was brought to UAE Team Emirates, he was probably the best sprinter in the world. But since that transfer, wasn't the same. It was the leaving Quickstep effect taking full force again. But Fernando Gaviria, where is he linked to, Ewan? And what have you thought of Gaviria's UAE Team Emirates time?
Well, his time at UAE was interesting, you could say. The Grand Tour stage at his first ever Grand Tour with UAE back in the 2019 Giro. Then the rest of the season a little bit quiet there, missing the mark in sprints. 2020 was a torrid year for Gaviria, getting COVID a number of times. In fact, I think he was one of the first professional riders to get COVID at the tainted UAE Tour back in 2020. It seemed like that was hampering his sprint for the rest of the year, but he was winning sort of smaller level sprints, but never quite at that top level ever again. And Gaviria this year, similarly, just missing the mark completely. Looking forward, he was confirmed to be leaving UAE a while back. There wasn't really much news about Gaviria, which is a bit worrying. However, Gazzetta dello Sport have been breaking the news in the past week that he is linked to Movistar, the Spanish team, who have demonstrated that they're not necessarily the strongest of sprinting formations. They have Max Canter at the moment, who's on particularly good form as of the time of recording. They also signed Iban Garcia Cortina at the beginning of 2021. But Scott, I'm not particularly optimistic about this one. I just don't think Movistar and Gaviria are click. She showed that he can climb pretty well in the past. I just don't think it's going to be a match made in heaven. This.
I used to be a fan of Gaviria. I just don't see it. And Movistar, as we spoke about, the team that only had 2 wins in 2020. I'm not too much faith in that. But Ewan, we also have another sprinter, Mark Cavendish. What was the update on him? It looks like he won't be going to EF after all.
Yeah, given that EF now have, EF have made some big signings this year. They signed Carapaz, they also signed Amador, and they've re-signed Rigoberto Urán. There was a rumor early this year that EF were troubled with either re-signing Urán or going for Cavendish in the transfer markets. They couldn't really afford to do both things. Given that Urán has now been prolonged, we believe, for the next 2 years, that makes the likelihood of Cavendish a little bit slimmer at EF and at the World Tour level. Israel, I believe, are still interested, as is Paris Cycling Club, the team we now know as B&B Hotels. The DS, Jean Pinot, has been a little bit sort of skeptical. He's saying that he's in talks with Cavendish's agent, but they haven't spoken in a while, and that it's a bit touch and go with the negotiation process. I think maybe negotiations haven't quite gone his way, and the team and Cavendish are going back and forth. But at the moment, nothing's been announced in terms of Mark Cavendish. In the past 2 years, the announcement has come in the 11th hour. In 2020, I remember it was in December, he was announced to be moving to Quickstep, and last year he got his contract extension rather last minute. This year, we're still hearing nothing. We're still waiting to see what's going to come out of this Cavendish story. But B&B Hotels have been active in the market. They've missed out on a lot of their targets. Michael Matthews, Alexi Vouillamose, who extended as well. There were some big targets. They were also in the race to sign Adam Yates. They put forward a bid for him. They've made some smaller signings. We mentioned Case Ball in the last episode. They also, I believe, were linked to Rowan Sinkeldam, as well as Nick Schultz from Bike Exchange, who'll be moving there next year. But Paris Cycling Club really want Cavendish, and Cavendish is looking like it's slim pickings as we reach really the tipping point in this transfer market.
Well, anyway, talking about one rider leaving Quickstep Alpha Vinyl, we're going to finish on another one who's going to be leaving Quickstep Alpha Vinyl. Zdeněk Stybar, of course, we all know, a former world champion in cyclocross and also a podium finisher on several monuments. But Ewan, yeah, unfortunately, he is ending his chapter with the Quickstep outfit.
Yeah, it's been a long and very successful one for Zdeněk Stybar. Throughout his cyclocross time, he was given the chance to fight for road stages as well. As he rounded out his cyclocross career, he then transferred onto the road, had a lot of really good classics results. He won Stade Bianche, for instance. He won a Tour de France stage back in Le Havre in 2015. I mean, he's had a very successful road career. However, it was announced earlier this year that he would be leaving Quickstep Alpha Vinyl. In the announcement earlier this year, it seemed like he was wanting to search out new goals in, I think, mountain biking or to go back into cyclocross. He wanted to change disciplines and so forth, and the new change routine would allow him to do that. The destination, we believe, is Bike Exchange. That is the strongest rumor at the moment, which will be an interesting place for Zdeněk Stybar to go. With Bike Exchange lacking a sort of classics contender at the moment, and Stybar's always kind of ridden in the spotlight of other people, this could really be his time to shine in these Flemish classics. But similarly, he does want to try to target these other events. So we might be seeing a natural decline for Stybar, but nevertheless, this looks like a sort of a retirement home move for the Czech rider.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's basically it for this transfer talks. Make sure to check out our previous transfer talks, the top 10 transfers, and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below if we've missed any out as well. But until next time, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you around.